President Brian, the meeting is all yours.
Welcome everyone to the regular weekly meeting of the Hudson Rotary Club on this Thursday, June 18th. Thank you all for coming. If you will, please bow your head and start with the invocation. God, we thank you for a successful end to this Rotarian year, for the blessings we have received through service with our Rotarian friends in this club. We stand here facing the challenges of the coming year with faith in you and confidence in our success, because it is in your hands. You care that there is goodness in everyone and always guide the hands of those who help others. We pray that you endow the members of next year's leadership team headed by Randy with wisdom, vision, and stamina, that they lead in service, preserve everything that is good in the club, and have the strength to change what is needed. We ask your blessings for this group that is gathered here today as we continue to help spread friendship and help those in need. Amen. If you'll join me in the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as Rotarians in the things that we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? With that, Randy, I will turn the meeting to you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to the Noon Rotary. Welcome to all our guests. Good to see you. Any happy bucks? Who's happy? Brian, you gotta be. Joni, go ahead.
Gotta figure out how to unmute myself first. 5 happy bucks. I get to go fishing. I'm gonna catch at least 5 fish. One way or the other, whether I take them from him or whether I catch them myself, I'm getting 5.
Nice.
Kara and her family and I yesterday packed boxes for, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's the families who pick up food at the Hudson High School. Very thankful for that opportunity. It was very interesting to see how that worked, and it was fun to represent our club. Otherwise, it's just been a beautiful week, and I hope everybody is enjoying their time off, and I'm watching everybody get kind of back into their work cycle. It's interesting, and I feel very blessed. So that's it.
Thanks, Joni. Any other happy bucks? We should all give a happy buck for Isaac getting a haircut, thank God.
I did not get a haircut, but Randy, since you brought it up, this is the 3rd time since quarantine started that I've actually done my hair. But no, 2 days ago, I was expressing extreme frustration to my family that my barber in River Falls is still closed and probably will be for a while. And I went on out on a limb, and this really communicates my my desperation. I asked my 12-year-old daughter if she would be willing to give me a haircut. So next Thursday, you will see the results of what she does on Saturday.
Can we send her some suggestions for designs to carve?
There's a reason why I'm wearing a hat, by the way.
You know, she was so overly excited that I almost had this thought of withdrawing the offer lest I look like Randy at the end of the haircut.
Wow. Hey, Sean looks worse than I do. At least I got some. Okay, any other happy dollars? That's $5 there, Isaac.
I'll go. I've 5 happy bucks for me. It's in honor of Father's Day. 1 for my dad for being a great father, and 4 for my daughters for giving me a chance to be a father. It's one of my favorite days of the year, and we try to to celebrate in big style. I don't know what we'll do because it's fun to be spontaneous, but I'm happy about that.
Thank you. Very good.
Cool.
I think your wife had something to do with that too, though. Just saying.
Just
Quite a bit.
Just
Quite a
comment
bit.
on that. A lot of people are on Perch Lake swimming. Maybe you want to do that for Father's Day.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other happy bucks? Bueller? No? All right. Any announcements?
Just one, reminder, if you haven't signed up for the visioning session and want to register, I can still get you in this afternoon. So if you're interested, just shoot me an email here after the meeting and I'll get you signed up.
Thanks, man. Kara?
Yeah, so as a result of a prior Rotary meeting, I ended up joining the board of Habitat for Humanity, St. Croix Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Nice.
And we have and I'm now a member of the Family Selection Committee. And so we have a house in Spring Valley, Wisconsin, and there are ticket applications through July 1st. So I don't know, maybe I could send Isaac the PDF of the flyer. And that's something that could be distributed to the club. So if you know anybody or any place that flyer could be placed to welcome families to apply, that would be great.
Excellent. Thanks, Kara. Chuck, do you have an announcement?
Yeah, I do. I got an email about an hour and a half ago, from Abul Shura, we
lost you, Chuck. We lost Chuck, I think.
I lost a lot. But anyway, I got an email from Abul. The $1,800 and $900 from Jeff Zeiss and the match from the club are apparently on their way tomorrow. Joni said she will be sending a check tomorrow. He says, are you all with me at the moment?
What's that,
We're
Chuck?
with you.
Are you all, did you hear anything I said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, Abul says, please communicate to your club and the members who contributed toward the matching grant from Jeff. I am truly grateful. Stay safe and healthy.
All right, Chuck, we lost you. You're cutting in and out, Chuck. I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah, Abul was very
All right.
thankful and appreciative. I have something.
Yeah, Joni, go.
We had a meeting for the golf committee this morning. So the golf event is going to happen at Troy Burn on August 3rd. We don't have the sponsorships and all that stuff will be the same as they have been in the past. So I'm going to be reaching out to some club members. If you want to reach back to me, I know some of you have sponsored in the past, but you should be seeing that for sure in the next week or so. It's going to be fun. It's, Troy Burn's got some good social distancing things, good pre-planning, I believe, around COVID. I think that they've been in business and working now anyway, so we're using their guidelines pretty much. But I think it'll be an enjoyable day.
Thanks, Joni. Brian.
I was just gonna make a quick mention of the Taste of Hudson. We still have the event rescheduled for September 10th. Though we've been in discussions with Miss Mary Claire Potter down at the chamber in regards to the idea that the Spirit of the St. Croix Festival is 2 weeks after that. And so we've been talking about whether we would perhaps merge those into the same weekend, or perhaps whether we're going to cancel both of those events. We've sent a survey out to all of the restaurant vendors that participated last year, asking interested in doing the event on September with our proposed 800 guests, or if they would be interested in doing it with a smaller number of guests, or if they would just prefer to do it next spring. And so we'll see what the end result of that survey is, and then we'll probably be making a decision next week, a final decision, because we're obviously quickly running out of time to plan the event and have everything that we need to have set up for it. So, and I'll be talking to Randy about where the city might fall in this equation as well, based on what happened at the city council meeting Monday when they canceled fireworks and put some other restrictions on other events in terms of how many people could be in the park for those. So,
Thanks, Brian.
Question.
Mary?
Sorry, question. Is the city still doing the Thursday night music this summer? Anybody know?
Not right now.
no.
Everything's kind of up in the air yet again. So
Yeah.
we'll make those decisions as we go. One other announcement from me, I talked at the Hudson House. We will be able to have Zoom in our room for our meetings. So we will be meeting, I believe, starting July 9th. I'm waiting for a confirm on that from Brittany at the Hudson House. So July 9th would be the first start with Zoom capabilities for our in-person meetings. Any other announcements? If not, Isaac, got a minute? Mute? And you're supposed to be the tech guy.
I did it again. Yes, so just in the last week, the Rotarian magazine finished judging and published the contest winners for their annual photo contest. So for anybody who enjoys photography or just looking at really pretty pictures of things around the world, not all of them are nature-based. A lot of them are people-based or event-based. Or even just situational based. Or maybe you're looking for a new Zoom background. Several of them are appropriate for that as well. I have sent the link about 10 minutes ago in the Zoom chat, so you're welcome to click on that. Not leave the meeting, just click on the link, open it at a second window, and that is my Rotary Minute.
Thank you, Isaac. And who's introducing, Isaac or Brian?
I will be.
Okay, go for it. Nope.
Our guest speaker, Dr. Ed Hagen, was raised in Sioux City, Iowa, and was fortunate enough to have met his wife, Denise, there. They currently live in Amory, Wisconsin, and have 5 children. He is one of 4 Dr. Ed Hagens in his family. Dr. Hagen graduated from medical school in 1988, completed his residency in obstetrics and gynecology in St. John's Mercy Medical Center in St. Louis, Missouri in 1992. He worked with his father in Sioux City for almost 20 years, then moved to Amory, where he did consulting work at Amory Regional Medical Center in gynecology for 2 years. Dr. Hagen is a fellow of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and boarded in anti-aging and regenerative medicine. He has also had advanced training in aesthetic medicine. He published a paper titled A Comparison of the Accuracy of TDLX FLMSA, lecithin, I'm not even going to try to finish that title, in the Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. In 2017, Dr. Hagen and Denise opened up Vivify Integrative Health in Hudson, where they see patients to reverse chronic disease, optimize their health, and do extensive preventative care. Here to share more and hopefully to correct me on the title of his paper is Dr. Ed Hagen.
Hey, thank you very much. No, you did great. It's lecithin sphingomyelin, but no one, I can't even pronounce that, and the pronunciation is not the important part. But yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm going to try to go to screen share here first. And so hopefully everybody can hear, and understand okay. This time of the COVID and Zoom and all this, I'm not a Zoom expert. I wish I had a 12-year-old child here with me sometimes. I've done some talks before, and halfway through you kind of get cut off. So it all depends on internet and technology. And it's hard as a speaker also just to speak to a computer. It's really nice to see the audience sometimes and see how they're interacting when you're talking. So this is a whole new thing for me. But yeah, I'm the medical director at Vivify, and it's just my wife and I. She's the health coach, and we are located in beautiful downtown Hudson, and we've been there for almost 3 years. We specialize in really optimizing people's health now. We work a lot with perimenopausal women, menopausal women, men with hormone issues, both men and female with chronic disease. We do a lot with weight loss. And in a little bit, I'll tell you how I arrived to where I'm at. But the title of today's talk is A New Paradigm for Healthcare. I've been in the medical field for over 30 years now, and I believe that the current way that we practice medicine will not be sustainable in the future. And so hopefully today's talk will give you a new perspective on chronic diseases and how to approach them. And so what is integrative medicine? I mean, I get asked this a lot, and here's a definition of it. But really the thrust for me for integrative medicine is to promote health, optimize health, and to reduce the risks of developing chronic diseases. And we really do this with emphasizing, lifestyle choices. One of the things that I've noticed, and a lot of people notice, is that healthy organisms naturally are resistant to infection and diseases. And we see this in plants and animals. And with this COVID pandemic going on, the people that become the sickest are the people that have comorbidity like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. And the reason for that is their immune system is suppressed or not as strong as someone that doesn't have those. And if we look at plants, basically a plant's environment or lifestyle is the soil, the sun, and the water. And if we take a seed and we put that in unhealthy soil, somewhere where there isn't light, where they don't have enough water, that plant, it will grow up, and then be more susceptible to diseases and dying. If we take a same seed and put it in healthy soil, good water, and good sunlight, that plant will flourish. And we can also see this with humans. And this is a tribe of Indians, the Chimian Indians in southern Bolivia. And they're noticed to have the healthiest arteries in the world. And so actually the American College of Cardiology has been going down there studying these people and, finding out why this is. And, so what have they found? Well, what they haven't found is they haven't found a population of people on statin drugs and on blood pressure lowering medicines. They found that these people's diet is all local and fresh. It's not processed. The men walk about 8 miles a day, hunting and gathering. They are always grounded to the earth as they don't wear shoes. They have no artificial light, so they're up when the sun comes up and they go to bed when the sun sets. They have no electricity, no cell phones, and no Wi-Fi, but yet they're totally healthy. And it's because of their healthy lifestyle choices. And, we can compare theirs to ours, and it's totally different. So kind of a general principle for me is that if organisms are healthy, they tend to be naturally resistant to diseases. So today I'm going to tell you something kind of controversial. And what about if I told you that chronic diseases don't actually exist? I mean, not as we think that we do. And chronic diseases are, the long-term things like heart disease, cancer, lung disease, strokes, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes. And in America, half of the adults have at least one chronic disease, and 25% of us will have 2 of these diseases. And the cost in the United States to this is almost $4 trillion a year. We spend that amount on health care. but yet we are not the healthiest country. We spend a lot more than anybody else, but we are not the healthiest country. We're ranked number 35. And so when I say I don't think our current system is sustainable, I mean, that's what I mean. It's just getting too expensive. And so my journey started about 6 years ago, and this is at my son, Ed Hagen's graduation from Creighton Medical School. He's now a 6-year general surgery resident in Seattle. But this was kind of the turning point for me. I became sick. I mean, I was an OBGYN. I was working long hours, a lot of stress, and I wasn't looking after my own health. And during this time, I developed high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol, probably was a diabetic. I had depression. I had heart disease. You know, and some of this might seem a little bit familiar to you, but I was under the care of my specialists. I had a cardiologist. I had a therapist. I had a GI doctor. And I did everything they said, and I took their medications. And actually, I started to look better on paper. I mean, my cholesterol looked better. My blood pressure got better. But one day when I was up here in Amory, I got back from walking the dog out in the woods, and I developed a tightness in my chest. And it got worse and worse and worse. And people explain, you know, it's like a car sitting on your chest, and that's what it was. So I kind of suspected what was going on. And so I chewed 2 aspirin. I called the local hospital and said, you know, get the helicopter, because I knew there was nothing they could do. And I took a ride in a helicopter to Regions Hospital, where I was diagnosed with 100% blockage of my LAD, or left anterior descending artery, or otherwise they call it the Widowmaker. And this was actually a selfie I took in the helicopter. But you know, it happened to me. You know, the walls had caved in, and this was actually really a wake-up call. And when I was in the hospital being treated, you know, my wife, who's been more holistic than I was, you know, she asked me, she goes, "How is that conventional medicine working for you?" And so after I got out of the hospital, I went to an integrative medicine physician, and I loved her approach. I loved the plan that she put together. And, you know, lucky for me, I'm here today and able to tell my story, and, you know, I feel great. So when that happened to me, I started looking back, you know, on how I was treated, and as a doctor, how I was treating patients. You know, the doctors that were treating me, yeah, they lowered my blood pressure, you know, with a pill, which is kind of putting a Band-Aid on things. They lowered my cholesterol with a pill, but they never got at the cause. And so I look back, you know, like even with my own patients, I was doing a lot of surgeries, a lot of hysterectomies for bleeding problems and stuff, but the pathology report would all come back normal. And, you know, I would treat people with pills, and, you know, they would, their symptom would get better, but are they really getting better? You know, it's just kind of a Band-Aid. I wasn't educating patients anymore. And as physicians, part of our job is actually to teach people. And so I was caught up in the rut of seeing 30 to 40 patients a day, but, you know, I wasn't listening to any of my patients. So I studied integrative medicine. I completed a fellowship in it. And I learned science that's not taught in medical school. And this science, you know, made a lot of sense to me. And so I started applying this to my patients. And, you know, what happened is they actually started getting better, you know, a lot better. I started, you know, looking for the root cause of the problems rather than just suppressing their symptoms. And this is not a picture of one of my patients, but I had this patient, Emily, and Emily was a 53-year-old, you know, female. And she came in because, you know, she had weight problems, she had joint and muscle pain, she couldn't sleep, she had a lot of depression. And, you know, despite her best efforts, she was unable to achieve any sustainable changes. So I met with her, and after our visit, you know, I ordered some labs, and after 1 or 2 weeks when the labs came back, you know, I diagnosed her with type 2 diabetes. She had a high blood sugar, she had high insulin, she had high leptin, she had cholesterol problems. And, you know, a few months after working with her, you know, she no longer had type 2 diabetes. You know, her disease, you know, basically disappeared. So what I've learned is our health is really on a continuum. I mean, at the top right up here, we have diseases. And on the bottom left, we have optimal health. And we're always moving up and down this curve. Take like Christmas or New Year's Eve, where we tend to overeat, you know, we might be drinking, we might not get enough sleep. You know, we move up this curve. But then come January and February, we kind of reset, we recalibrate ourselves, and we start to move back down. But when we get involved as doctors with patients, it's actually when the diagnosis is made. But really, things start down here in the lower left. That's when things start going bad. And I look back as my career as an OBGYN doctor, and patients would come in for their preventative yearly exam or whatever. And really what I was doing was nothing was really preventative. You know, the nurses would check the blood pressure. I do my exam, breast exam, pap smear. We do the pap smear, maybe order a mammogram. And when I look back at that, really all of that is really to diagnose something. It's to diagnose high blood pressure. It's to diagnose breast cancer. It's to diagnose cervical cancer. And so what I was doing was really not preventative at all. And so when I met Emily, I mean, she had a chronic disease. I mean, she was in the upper right. And so this just didn't start overnight. We have to think it's kind of like a fire that starts down here and it slowly burns and burns and burns out of control until finally one day we can say, Emily, you know, you have a disease. But the question is what caused that fire? I mean, why did she get what she got? And when we talk about diseases, we need to understand that there's acute diseases and there are chronic diseases. And there are two different things. And as doctors, we are really good at acute diseases. When I had my heart attack, I mean, bueno for those doctors. If you have a pneumonia and you get shortness of breath or fever and a cough and you go see a physician, you know, we might get a chest x-ray, we'll check your white blood cell count, maybe check a sputum to see what's growing in there. And if there are bugs, we put you on antibiotics and presto, you know, you no longer have pneumonia. But the problem arises now is when we apply that same thinking to chronic diseases, and it simply doesn't work because chronic diseases do not just happen. You just don't wake up one day with type 2 diabetes or hypertension. There are many different causes of these diseases. And by the time that I give you, you know, this diagnosis up here, you know, things have been going on for quite a long time. So Emily, you know, she had her diagnosis and we say, you know, that, you know, her blood sugar was out of control. Because I mean, that's what people think when we think about type 2 diabetes, is that it's a blood sugar problem. But really we're missing the point. There is a problem with blood sugar in type 2 diabetes, but type 2 diabetes is not a blood sugar problem. The blood sugar itself is just a symptom. It's not the cause. So if we're just treating symptoms, we'll never get rid of diseases. So I told Emily, I said, you know, you got a problem with your blood sugar, and for the last, you know, few years, your body's becoming more and more intolerant to certain foods. And at this moment, you know, I told her, you know, you do not tolerate like refined sugars, processed carbs, you know, really sugars at all. So we have to cut them out. And so really by cutting those out, what does that do? Well, it stops putting fuel on the fire down here. But the question is, you know, really what started the fire in the first place? There's a lot of different reasons, you know, and with type 2 diabetes, it's something that we call insulin resistance. And insulin is a very important hormone in our bodies. And one of its key functions is to keep our blood sugars, you know, tightly controlled. So if we're at the bottom left down here, you know, in the optimal health, but for some reason this morning you get up and you eat a sugary bowl of cereal, you know, your blood sugar is going to start creeping up. And when your blood sugar goes up, your body releases a little bit of insulin to bring that blood sugar back down to normal. But as we move up this curve and you become more and more insulin resistant, that means you need more insulin to bring that blood sugar back to the same point. And for all those years before getting anywhere near, you know, the diagnosis for Emily of type 2 diabetes, you know, this insulin's been causing a lot of problems. And you can kind of think of it like, you know, alcohol. The first time that any of us have ever had a glass of wine or a beer, you know, we might get a little bit tipsy, you know, might get a little bit drunk. But as we become more seasoned drinkers, you need more and more alcohol to obtain that same effect. And that's what's going on with insulin. You need more and more insulin to obtain that same effect. But insulin itself can be a problem. And when insulin can no longer keep your blood sugar, under that magical number of 100, at what point, at that point, we say, oh, you have a disease. At that point, you have type 2 diabetes. So now you're up here. But what caused that insulin resistance? And there are many different things. It could be, your diet. It could be that for the last 10 years, we've eaten nothing but fully processed junk food, and that could be a cause. Or, it could be stress. And stress is a whole bunch of different things, but it can be work stress, emotional stress. It can be thoughts. It can be like perceived stress. For me is like stress can be seeing my inbox full on my email. But what happens with stress is your body releases cortisol. Cortisol is one of your fight and flight hormones. And as cortisol increases in your body, it raises your blood sugar. And as it raises your blood sugar, it increases your insulin. So that can lead you to insulin resistance. It can be simply that you're not getting enough sleep. Or if you're a shift workers have a lot of health issues just because we're all rely on circadian rhythms. But one night of sleep deprivation is about the equal of 6 months of eating unprocessed, junk food. So sleep is really important. Just getting older, we lose muscle mass, and muscle burns sugar, glucose. And so if we have less muscle, we're burning less glucose. So then our glucose goes up and we become insulin resistant. There's another important thing called microbiome. And we all have trillions of bugs that live inside of us. We don't want to think about that, but we do. And the balance of these bugs is critical to our overall health. And if we disrupt this balance, what you get is an overgrowth of certain bacteria. And these certain bacteria, they have outer jackets on them. And these are coated with what we call lipopolysaccharides, or LPS. And LPS can get into your bloodstream and cause insulin resistance. So if we don't address the causes for Emily, we'll never get rid of these diseases. And so what I did with her is, after working with her a few months, reversing these things, she no longer had type 2 diabetes. And we see this with a lot of other things too. If we just look at like depression, 1 in 5 people will have depression, in the United States at some point in their life. And so what causes depression, or really what is depression? Because we don't have a test. We don't have a CAT scan for depression. We don't have a blood test for depression. Depression is one of those diseases that it's just a name to a collection of symptoms. I say there's no test for it, but what causes it? Well, we know that there are many different reasons, but inflammation is a big cause of depression. And the reason that we know this is, and I'm not talking like inflammation where you trip and twist your ankle or something where it swells up and become red. I'm talking about chronic inflammation in your body. And this happens when our body thinks that it's constantly under attack. And studies have shown that patients that have depression, that have a lot of inflammation, do not respond as well to antidepressants. And this really starts to make sense because antidepressants are designed to raise a chemical in your brain that helps with depression. But if depression is actually due to inflammation in your body, that medication does not work as well. So the key is to address the inflammation. Well, where does the inflammation come from? Well, it can come from your diet. It can come from sleep deprivation, being not physically active. Maybe you don't get enough sunlight and enough vitamin D, or your microbiome is disrupted. Those are all causes of inflammation. And if we don't treat those, the diseases won't get better. See, diseases are just really kind of symptoms. It's your body telling you something. And then, what about, some told you about Alzheimer's, and we're all living longer, but we're kind of living scared. And we're scared because as if we live longer, we have a more chance of getting dementia or Alzheimer's. And this has, devastating consequences. We've all lived with this probably with loved ones or family or friends. And, it's it's a very difficult disease to treat and to deal with. But the doctors, what we're doing is we're running around scrambling, looking for a cure for Alzheimer's. Well, this Dr. Bredesen in San Francisco, he's actually demonstrating that he can cure dementia. He can cure Alzheimer's. How's he doing this? Well, again, what he's not doing is he's not looking out in his waiting room at all these patients with dementia and saying, boy, what is the cure? No, what he's doing is he's looking out in his office at numerous patients, and he's trying to figure out what are the triggers that over the last 20 years have ended up with why this patient has ended up with dementia. And then he identifies those specific triggers and he corrects every single one of them. And guess what? They're reversing their symptoms. His patients are no longer classified as having dementia. So it's really a whole new way of looking at diseases. It's looking at what is causing the disease in a particular patient, and it's totally different than what I was doing in conventional medicine. So again, what factors was Dr. Bredesen looking at? Well, he was looking at their diet, he was looking at their sleep, he was looking at their stress levels, their physical activity, what their environment like, where are they living, what's their toxins, et cetera. And so, this is all kind of sounding familiar. It's just repetitive, that our environment is so important. So what if all these seemingly separate diseases here, this chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, depression, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, heart disease, what about if they actually all kind of had a common root causes? And that's really where we need to start updating our thinking. We all blame things on genetics, but our genetics is not our destiny. The genes actually just load the gun, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger. See, all these factors, sunlight, diet, stress, sleep, gut health, these are all things that basically interact with your genes and decide whether your genes are expressed or not. And this occurs whether you're in optimal health or whether you have a disease or whether you're somewhere in between on that curve. And collectively as a society, I think we can do better. We spend over $300 billion a year just on type 2 diabetes. And this is a sobering thought, but in the US today, the generation of kids born will have a lower life expectancy than the generation before them. And that's new. Is this evolution or is this de-evolution? And so I need to evolve the way that we practice medicine. We need the medicine of etiology, not the medicine of symptomatology. The medicine to ask why is this happening to me, and not the medicine to tell you what. This is really personalized medicine, it's precision medicine, and it's progressive medicine. And in its purest form, it's in preventative medicine, it's actually in its purest form. And so we, need to stop applying our 20th century thinking to this 21st century problems that we're having. Our lifestyles have totally changed over the last, 2 centuries. We need to take back control, empower ourselves, and re-educate ourselves away from the fear of that disease and right back down the curve to optimal health. Because if we do, I generally believe that we can change our health and also probably the health of our community. And that's the talk that I have today. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I don't talk about COVID because it's so controversial, but if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer some of those. And I don't know, I'm gonna stop the sharing.
You got it? Okay. Question for you on gut health. Can you give us some tips? Any probiotic or what's the deal?
Not any probiotic. What I recommend for patients, and I have a few companies that, I use and you'd be comfortable with, but there's many of them out there. But probiotics are really, really important because of the the food and stuff that we eat is loaded with hormones and antibiotics, so it kills off our good gut. So if you're going to take a probiotic, I recommend that you buy them from a reputable company, number one. And I'm not bad mouthing Walmart or Costco or those kind of places, but a lot of their supplements, because supplements aren't as regulated as prescription medicines, but a lot of their supplements, they buy as outdated supplements from reputable companies. And one example is you can go to, and I'm not picking on Walmart, but I'll say Walmart, but you can go to Walmart and buy vitamin D. And vitamin D on their bottles might say 5,000 units of vitamin D. But if you read the fine print, it says up to 5,000 units of vitamin D. So that can be 0 to 5,000. Most of my patients get things off a thing called Fullscript. Fullscript has hundreds of different supplement companies on there, but they've all been tested by third parties. But as far as probiotics, it's not the number, you don't need like 40 different bacteria, okay? But what you want is you want a couple of bacteria with a lot of counts. And like lactobacillus is very good. Bifidum is really good. But it also depends on your symptoms, because not every probiotic is the same. And so if I have patients with one thing, sometimes I'll recommend a certain probiotic for them. They also make probiotics that are coated in spores, because a lot of the probiotics we take are killed off in our stomach. They're meant to be in our large intestine. So them to get there, they have to survive. And so they do make some probiotics that are actually encapsulated in spores, so they survive the acidity of the stomach. So yeah, I mean, if you just go to a general place and buy a good probiotic, that's probably good, but I am sometimes more specific and depends on the patient's symptoms.
And is there anything special to counteract alcohol drinking?
Alcohol drinking. Well, to be honest, I'm a recovered alcoholic. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. And, you know, the best thing is, I mean, I now look at drinking is not normal. I mean, everybody thinks I'm not normal because I don't drink anymore. But drinking itself, there's no medicinal purpose. I mean, it's basically for religious purposes only. And so the main thing for drinking and for me was, why was I drinking? You know, there's a reason why. And so there's not a magic pill to help you with drinking. And not everybody that drinks has a problem. I'm not saying that. I have friends that drink, you know, family members that drink. It doesn't bother me. But it's the underlying cause of why you're drinking.
I was really kind of geared more at, I will be drinking. So what do you counter for gut health with the alcohol?
Well, alcohol is a lot of sugar, you know, so you're more prone to get yeast problems with that. And again, probiotics. I mean, I mean, there are certain things that I think everybody should take. Everybody should take a good probiotic, because of the food that we eat. Is unless we eat 100% organic and we do everything perfect, we should take a probiotic. Vitamin D is really important because it's huge on our immune system. And now, in fact, in the UK, they're talking about vitamin D and COVID, you know, helping with the COVID patients. But where we live in the Northern Hemisphere, we get no vitamin D until about May, until like October. That's it. In January, February, December, there's no vitamin, even sunny day, there's no vitamin D. And so if we lived on the equator, we wouldn't need to take vitamin D because we'd be out in the sun. The other thing is so many of us are fearful of the sun, and the sun is actually your friend. But you want to see, we see the sunrise every day and we see the sunset every day. Then you're getting good UVA rays that protect you from the damaging rays later in the day. But Americans, you know, especially kids, you know, they sleep till noon, then they go out in the sun all day and just get burnt to the crisp, you know, and then they stay out late at night, you know, so they're not protected. But to get protected, you need to see the sunrise and sunset. And melanomas, we used to almost never hear of, you know, 100 years ago. And farmers would be out with just their little, like the University of Arizona cap they're on. You know, they weren't covering their ears, you know, nothing. They're just out in their tractors. They had no cabs, but they were out when the sun came up. They worked till the sun set. almost no chance of getting melanoma. Melanomas now are much more common in people that work indoors underneath fluorescent lights, LED lights, and they get them on their chest, feet, places that are not exposed to the sun. So if you're going to drink alcohol, probiotics are good, but probiotics, vitamin D, fish oil is really, really important unless someone eats just a ton of wild-caught salmon. Your cells and your blood vessels are all, protected by fish oil. And if you think about like a garden hose that can get brittle when it's left out in the sun and you step on it, it'll crack. Well, fish oil keeps your blood vessels more flexible and lubricant. So if you do have something bad, like a heart attack, like I have, they don't just burst, they'll give a little bit.
The important thing that I heard you say there, doctor, is that she really needs to be the one getting up and taking the dog for a walk at 5:30 in the morning right now.
Very important. Yes.
We'll make that change.
Always should be the wife. Always the wife. But no, it's really important to do that. And, Denise, who's my lifestyle coach, she goes into a lot of lifestyle things that people don't think about, like how damaging Wi-Fi is, how bad LED lights are for you. We wear special glasses at nighttime to block blue light because that affects your melatonin and you can't sleep, and melatonin's an antioxidant, so we want that. So in our household at nighttime, we almost have no lights on. If they do, they have red incandescent light bulbs in them. And we don't get on our cell phone the first thing in the morning. We don't get on a computer first thing in the morning. We watch the sun. Because this computer screen, if you're watching it and it's before bedtime, your brain thinks it's noon. And so you're not going to make sleep hormones. So those are things that she really delves into. I do more of the medical stuff, and then she delves into the whole lifestyle thing, just simple, free things that people can do to improve their health. It doesn't cost anything to go out and get vitamin D.
Any other questions for Dr. Hagen? Isaac, go ahead, sir.
I had to pull up the two hands because I didn't think one hand was visible enough there. So, Dr. Hagen, it sounds to me like a lot of what you're doing is based in traditional not Western medicine, but like just natural medicine. I hesitate to say homeopathic, but
yeah.
But there's a lot of natural techniques, it sounds like.
Yes, and there's, I've learned a lot out there doing what I'm doing now, but I have the advantage over some people. Maybe it's an advantage, but I was on the other side, the conventional medicine side, so I can help people with their blood pressure and their diabetes and things, and adjust medications and try to get them off. So I do still do the Western or conventional medicine part, but I'm also have more of the Eastern, medicine, like Chinese medicine has been around for 2,000 years, and we call, that alternative medicine. Well, it's been around longer than they have statin drugs. So I'm able to combine them both and do what's best, for the patients. Some people, the natural stuff's not right for them. It's just not. Other people, I can, like statin drugs, I can get them off statin drugs. There's a lot of problems with statin drugs, and, like cholesterol is, I learned a lot about cholesterol because of my condition and just studying what I've been studying. But cholesterol is really interesting because we all think that we eat cholesterol. We don't. 99% of your cholesterol is made in your liver. So when I see people with high cholesterol, my first question up here is, why is your liver making more cholesterol? Because our bodies are very efficient. They're well-oiled machines. We don't want to burn things we don't have to. So if you're making more, if you have more cholesterol, your body's making it for a reason. And what are those reasons? Well, cholesterol is the precursor to all your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. So as we age, those naturally go down. And so in your liver has receptors for estrogen and testosterone. And if it's not noticing any of it, your liver's going, hey guys, we got to make more cholesterol because this doesn't have enough testosterone. So it tries to help out. The other reason you get more cholesterol is because if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, you're damaging cells. And cholesterol is in every one of your cell walls to repair. And that's what LDL cholesterol does. LDL delivers cholesterol to your body. It's kind of like an antibiotic. It repairs things. And so if you have a lot of inflammation, you're going to have a higher cholesterol. It's not what you eat unless you eat a lot of sugar. Sugar is inflammatory. You don't get cholesterol from eating eggs. So, I mean, I learned a lot. That's, for me, that was really interesting because of my condition and then how many patients I see on statin drugs. And so putting people on a statin drug when their body wants more cholesterol, if you have a normal cholesterol and have a heart attack, you're more apt to die than if you have a high cholesterol and a heart attack, because you can't repair. So I use both. I mean, I'm not a homeopath. I'm not a, conventional doctor. I'm in my own little zone.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, just, you can always email me or whatever, but I know I appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk, and hopefully it was interesting. You can never see if everybody's sleeping or not.
That was very, very informative, Dr. Hagen. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Good information for us. We have one last item. Yes. One last item on the agenda today, and that's Randy. Don't have our traditional gavel, sir. I've got a big mallet to give you. As long as you don't use it on me for passing on to you some undone things. And no, you cannot use it on Isaac either. But seriously, I wish you the best. We have some challenges, obviously, coming up this year. Still trying to operate our fundraisers and that type of thing in this environment of COVID. So best wishes to you in the coming years, sir.
Well, thanks. I think collectively as a group, we'll be fine. We'll get through it with whatever's thrown our way as a group and as we move forward. So thank you for all your hard work.
The meeting is yours to end, sir.
Any other business for the good of Rotary? Seeing none, we will adjourn. Ding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.